Okay, got the bracket on there, got the clear piece on nice. It door just swings open lovely below it, and what you can see the rain will hit that and stay on the outside of the door, and it'll let in a little bit of light there too. Now I did run into a small issue. I can't organise any light here right now. I ran into a small issue with fitting my motor here. My issue is I made kind of I don't know that much about sprockets, pulleys. I worked in the food industry, and most of the kit worked on this stuff, but we had a great engineering team there, so I never had to worry about any of that stuff. I just had some old bicycle chain lying around, but this is I believe it's British standard 05 gearing, so it needs the correct chain for it. This chain doesn't fit it, so I need to go and source some correct size chain to complete this bit. But that's not to worry. I kind of had a suspicion that was going to be the case when I was looking into ordering the sprocket, and I had a quick look around for the chain and I couldn't find any easy, so I kind of left it and said I'll make it work. So guess I'm going to have to go back and do a bit more research in that one. So now I just need to fit my barge trim on here, screw it down, and then fit another piece on here, and we're getting there. I think the last thing I'm going to do then is get the water in, and I think the shock's ready to roll out of here. Then I got to go check the tire pressures, tighten, make sure the nuts are tight, and I'll get it up to the farm. Then the last few things, I've got the feeding troughs, the roosts for the top, they're all up at the farm. I'm still waiting on some of these timers to come to finish to make the box for this, but yeah, I'm pretty much ready to move it on to the farm then, and I can do the finishing touches up there. It's been really awesome having this is my uncle's shed. He's a retired mechanic. He used to do trucks and buses. It's been awesome having his help on it. Gives him something to do as well to pass the time, and yeah, it's been awesome having his help. And he's also really knowledgeable on engineering and fabrication and stuff, so anything I'm not sure on I can ask him and he'll tell me if it's going to be strong enough for what we should do. So really lucky. So I had to climb up here to connect this guy here, and now he's running up from down there, so that's all good. It was actually fine. I was able to come in. I took my shoes off so I didn't dirty the floor. Quite funny. I'm pretty much wrapped up, I think, down here. Just got to clean up all the tools and check the tires and pressure, and then the shock's ready for the road. We're just getting ready. The truck's due to come this afternoon to take away Eggmobile 1, so I'm just getting it ready. I'll pull it out down to the main road because it's quite tricky to get truck getting in here, so I'll pull it down and we'll load it up down there. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say emotional because you got to move forward, and this Eggmobile served us so well. It was our first Eggmobile. Got us all set up, and you know, it definitely owes me nothing. I definitely owe it. We're on the truck. That went pretty smooth. We just hooked this pulley onto the center of the truck, and then with the van I just pulled it up. We wanted it facing forward on the truck because this bit out hangs, and we're in Ireland, so we drive on the left hand side, so this is hanging out in the ditch as opposed to oncoming traffic. So that's her loaded up. There we go. Okay, apologies for the wind, guys. It's just really windy this last few days, but we're pretty much done. We got the Eggmobile up from the workshop, took it up the road early one Sunday morning, pulled it up steady 25 miles an hour, and she done well. So you can see I've got my solar panel on and my camera. My done the solar panel, very simple. I've got some ropes so I can pivot it. I can pull on this rope here, loosen this rope and pull on this one, and it changes the angle so that if I am in the wrong direction I can flip it the other way around. So I've got the inspectors coming in 2 days time, so I have it all set up for the inspector basically. This is how it'll look. This is the ramp up to the next door. I'm just going to close this door to keep the one down. So this can actually be moved out of the way if you give me 2 seconds. Okay, so I just pushed it out of the way for now. But yeah, this is how we're looking. So trying to tick all the boxes for the regulators. So we've got our feeding troughs in, and they need to be cleanable surface, so they're plastic feeding troughs. We've got 2 on this level, and then we've got more up here, and these actually get pulled out and filled and then put in. And we've got our roosts up here. We've got, again, these are additional, and this is probably the idea that having the solid floor would be. This is going to be would be a deep litter system effectively, although my birds probably aren't going to use this very often, but it's here for the purpose. And again, we've got our nipple drinkers there, and we've got another load of nipple drinkers right up the front, if you can remember. I've also put on this shade cloth here, and I put it on all the way along to stop any birds from jumping up, and as the nest boxes move, this moves with it. I've got our box all in. This is a Wi-Fi dongle. It's the only cost. It's I've got a monthly subscription for internet, and that enables me to have camera access and wireless control of the Eggmobile. We've got our battery. I do have to put my fence energizer on here, but I'm not too worried about that just yet. Then the last thing I have to do before the inspector comes, I have to put some sort of cover on here, so I'll probably just drape some wooden brick over it for now. One other thing I'm waiting on is I'm waiting on a chain for my motor to go on here, and I'll have my switch here. But we've got our main lights, so that there is these lights. We've got our egg belt lights, which light up here, and this is our nest box tilt. So you can see I can tilt this out, and I do actually, that's another job, I need to put a level on here, but I will actually wait until it's in operation to find the nice spot where that works well and set it, and then I just adjust it with this here. The reason why these aren't in the panel, I've put again to keep mites and any little guys out, everything's sealed in here. This is just a lunchbox, completely sealed, and I want actually, these timers are kind of backup. I've got them on my phone, we'll look at that in a second. So these are the kind of things that'll be used every day kind of job. So I wanted to keep them out of the panel, and it's just 4 switches, and these are on off. They're cheap switches, so I don't mind if, you know, they get wore out after a couple of years and replace them. That's no biggie. I'm really happy with the light in here, and yeah, all in all, it's a good job. What we'll do now is we'll have a look at how the automations work. So if we open up our app for here, we have 4 functions. I've been using 3 for lights, nest boxes and doors. So I turn the door off to open, and now this is sped up, but you can see the door starts to open up, moves much slower, and both doors actually open in unison here. And this is very handy to remotely control this. Then if we take a look at our cameras, which is on a separate app, we've got 1 camera inside the Eggmobile, and we can turn that round so I can check are the nest boxes open, are the doors open, what's happening inside, are the lights on. Then if we take a look at the second camera, which is the external one, I can actually get a full 360 around the Eggmobile, pan round, see what's happening, can zoom down. Really useful to have, and especially the remoteness. I can log in anywhere and control this. Okay, inspectors were here yesterday, and I think all in all it was really good, because there's a few things that really were positive. One, up to this point the region of Ireland I'm in isn't a big poultry region, and I believe the inspector for this area retired a few years ago, and responsibility for this area was just kind of being passed around and around. I'm just going to move in here out of the wind. It was being passed round and round, and there was nobody really fixed responsible for here, and that can be problematic, because if an inspector is coming up to look at this place and they don't think they're going to be the long-term inspector for here, or it's going to be part of their region, then they're very reluctant to give you any leeway. But this area is actually being designated now, so I basically, my inspector will be my inspector. That office is responsible for this area, so that's really positive now that I can actually build up a relationship, and they're confident knowing that they're responsible for this area. I had two inspectors out, and to be fair, they were extremely good and helpful and very open, and I really felt they were trying their best for my side. What they do is they come out and they collect all the measurements from the Eggmobile, and then they have to take that off and analyze it, because, and to be fair, they're trying to figure out what the limiting factor is for the maximum number of birds, and then to see if the case is, if it's a bit lower than what I was hoping, what we could do, what changes maybe we could make to raise that limiting factor. So they take all the measurements. The big thing to try and figure out is the floor space, because you got to subtract the feeders and roosts and things like that. So they have to go and it's not that straightforward, just multiplying out the plan of the machine, and that's how many birds you can have. You got to subtract loads of little stuff. But they've taken all the measurements, and they're going to work out what they see as the maximum number of birds in there. I'm kind of hoping that it'll be 350. If it's a little bit below that, we'll have to see what we can do to maybe change it around. I mean, if it was 300, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But all in all, they're pretty happy with the design. They've never seen it before. And one good thing, I basically explained it to them like it's a fixed house that moves slowly. And they kind of got it, in the sense that I wasn't really emphasizing that it moves. I was emphasizing that it's, because all their regulation, everything they're used to is of a fixed house. So the more relationships I could make between the Eggmobile and a fixed house, the easier it was for them to then kind of understand what it was about. And they were very open to it. They actually liked the idea, and they understood the kind of principles behind it. Couple of things that I have to change in my quote here. One big thing is, just for my layout, I'm probably going to have to put up another fence to divide up the farm a bit more. In Ireland, it's probably different to what most people are used to. You can't just put your whole farm in free range production area. It just doesn't work like that. If you want to get it registered as an egg producer, you have to have a defined area that is the free range area. And there's a few things that come along with that. That area must be fenced off. So at the minute, I've got a fence around my whole farm. And I was thinking I could just make the whole thing free range area, but that's not acceptable, because basically then they're coming out and saying, okay, it's fine for chickens to walk around on this road, but I'm going to be driving on that road or walk all around the farmyard, and there's stuff going on there. So fair enough, like, it makes sense. So what I'm thinking is making this whole backfield area the free range area for the chickens. So I'm just going to have to run, it's about 100 meters. I'm going to run a fence along this tree line here behind me from one end to the other. Sorry, it's going to come right up along the polytunnel here, and this will be the free range area. And then technically you need to have a biosecurity station before you enter there. So you would have a foot bath station for anybody walking into that area that they could disinfect on the way in. And also no other animals are allowed in that area other than the poultry. You can't have herbivores. Well, no, sorry, that's not technically correct in Ireland, but it's not permitted to have other livestock in that area unless you get permission from a competent authority, and that's quite difficult to get, I believe. So that area will be just the free range area for the hens. And now it just technically doesn't have to be big. You're allowed 1,000 birds per hectare, I believe. So if I was just looking for 350 birds, I probably only need like what's that, a little less than an acre that I could fence in for them. But I think I'm going to give them most of the backfield and that's out there. You're allowed to have poultry in an orchard, that's acceptable in Ireland. So yeah, that's just the regulations, the way it is. You got to work with it, and I'm willing to work with them on it. So that's the biggest change I think I have to make. There was one or two things in my paperwork. I think one thing in my paperwork I didn't have was I didn't have a clean sheet for when the grain bin was empty and a new batch of grain started. I didn't have a record for that, so I had to put that record in, and one or two other things. The other thing we'll look at here quickly is our, I might flip the camera around, our egg packery. They're extremely happy with that. The only concern they did have for the egg packery was the size. Now, they were completely happy with the size of it for my operation, what I wanted to do, but their point was very valid. They were going to register me as an egg packing unit, and I could pack eggs for anybody. I could go out and buy 100,000 eggs a week and pack them off in this packing centre and then sell them on to a shop. So in principle, they loved the egg packery, but their little concern was about the scale. But I'm happy to agree that they basically wanted me to, if I was going to increase the number of layers I had on the farm, then I would need to increase the size of the egg packing station, which is totally fair. I think their main concern was just storage of eggs, which is a legitimate concern. And so I was totally open to that. I'll flip the camera around and show you exactly what we're doing. So first things first, I keep my protective footwear just outside the door here, and that's the first thing I put on. I slip on my protective footwear. My eggs normally come in from the field, they sit here. I have very little eggs in the egg packery at the minute because we're just going over to our new flock. That's actually our protocol there. You change your footwear, you wash your hands, you put on the coat. So right inside the door here, we've got hot and cold water with a wash hand station, signage explaining how to wash your hands properly, then just a bin to collect the paper towels. And this is my PPE coat then. And how this packery works is all the incoming goods go to the left hand side, then they get processed over this area, and then this is the storage for outgoing goods. So our cardboard is all stored up here, our packaging, our eggs from the field are going to be stored here. I can store up to almost 4 days worth of eggs before I need to process. You can process every day, you could process every second day, you could process once a week. That's completely up to you. It's just how you manage dates and that around that. You got to do specific things. This is our bee egg storage area, and then they get emptied out of here. This is our calibrated scales, and now they're happy for me not to have an egg grading machine. Because of the scale I'm at, I can manually grade the weights. Basically, when you have a finished package of eggs, it has to meet a minimum weight, and I have to be sure that the package, so I can weigh packages and make sure they're meeting the minimum weight. If I was doing it, obviously, if I was doing a lot more hens, I think it would be expected that I would get an egg grader to grade the weights. Not that I'm selling mixed. I'm selling my eggs mixed weights, which is fine, but you have to meet the minimum weight, and a grader helps you do that. So I weigh my eggs, and this is the candling station. This is our egg candler here. And I typically turn the big light out and candle my eggs. Then we've got our temperature control, and this is our temperature control unit here so that we keep constant temperature. And then all our delivery crates are red crates. We use red for delivery, we use white for in the field. Yellow trays are good eggs, blue trays are bee eggs, and they're all packed off and sit here, and then they go out. So it's really good flow. It's got lots of paperwork along with it, which they really like that. And that's how straightforward our egg packery is. So all in all, it went very well. I'm very happy with it. I have a bit of work to do. I've got a fence to put in. I don't mind. There's a bit of cost to that. It's not actually much of a cost because I've got 100 meters of deer fencing left over from that project, and I've got like 15 posts left over from that. So I think I have almost enough material there to do it anyway. So that's actually just lucky on my part. I'm not afraid to I don't mind doing it because I have the material there. And it's actually given like the next week is given the weather pretty good, so that's no issue for me. Got to make a few amendments on my paperwork, and then I just got to wait for them to come back to me with what they think is the minimum amount of birds in there and any other issues they might have. But they seem confident that we'll be able to get it all resolved and figured out and get it registered, which is great. And yeah, now I just got to sit tight and wait to hear a word from them. But yeah, it's been a long project, and I'm kind of happy to get it to this point. And hopefully, I think the bird flu ban will be lifted within the next 2 weeks. I'd be nearly certain of it. So I'll be glad to I won't put the birds into it yet until I get the okay from them, in case I have to make any kind of modifications. There was a few issues with how low to the ground roosts were, and they might be potentially making floor space null and void, and it might be a case that if I had to lift them up to get more floor space, so I won't put any birds into it until I've heard back from the department and everything's good. So I think that's going to be it for the egg mobile videos. There'll probably be a few more videos, just general stuff happening around the farm, and then we'll be getting on. Well, I'm going to be building some mobile shelters and stuff first, but in the next 3 weeks or a month I'll be starting into our slaughter unit, so I'll bring you along for that as well.